All right, welcome. My headphones were connecting and disconnecting, and hopefully you guys can hear me. All right, hope you all had a good day. We will get started on our backs. Okay, so kind of up to you on what you want to do with your legs. So if you want a little more intense stretch to start out, you can bring the bottoms of the feet together, bring those knees out a little bit wider. Okay, if this is a little bit too aggressive for you, maybe you just extend those legs out long, make it super relaxing. Maybe it's been a day. Maybe you need to start out like this. Just take a few moments here. Big breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. And that rise to the belly, up the chest. Big extension of that rib cage. And exhaling that breath out. On your own. Just being a little bit bigger breath than a natural breath. Kind of focus more air into that lowest part of the lungs. And slow down that exhale. Just letting your body relax a little bit more. If you notice that the mind starts to wander, just acknowledge it, just notice it. Just bring that focus right back to that breath. Maybe it's the rise and fall of the chest. Maybe it's feeling the breath as it enters the nose and exits the nose. Or maybe it's even cueing, just thinking in on the inhale and out on the exhale. Start to bring those knees together or start to hug those knees into the chest, just depending on where you're at. And just give it a little rock from side to side. And from here, let's cross that right ankle over that left thigh. Okay, hugging that left knee in, so grab onto that hamstring, or maybe you can reach for that shin. Okay, we want to keep that tailbone grounded down, so those vertebrae are lifted off of the mat. If you want a little bit more stretch, maybe you grab onto that shin. Then we can just lower that foot down, bring that left arm out, and then we'll drop the knees over to that right side. Bring it back to center, and we'll switch sides. So we'll cross that left ankle over. So start by hugging that knee to the chest, stretching out through that left outer hip. Lifting through the chest, grounding through that tailbone. Now let's lower that foot down. Keep that ankle crossed over. Right arm reaches out, and then drop the knees over to that left side. And now bring both knees back up. Let's go ahead and uncross it. Hug those knees in. Let's get a little momentum here. Okay, we're gonna come up to a standing forward fold. So if you wanna get a big rock, plant those feet, and then come up that way, you can, or if that's a little bit too much, just cross those legs, press up that way. your, whatever way you need to do to get up onto those feet, basically. Okay, so take that big breath in, flattening out that back. And then we'll slide those hands down as we fold. Just let that head hang heavy. Maybe give it a gentle sway from side to side. We're gonna bend into those knees, flatten out that back. We're gonna rise up to standing. Reach it up nice and tall. Interlacing those fingers, that pointer finger and that thumb can stay open or stay out. And then we'll just bend it over to that right side. Inhale, bring it back to center. Exhale it over to that left side. Inhale, bring it back up. And we'll release those hands as we find that forward fold. And again, sliding those hands up with the shins for that flat back. We're gonna bend into that right knee, okay? Twisting, reaching that left arm up. So you want your back to be really flat. Try not to have any rounding through that spine. And then lower it down. Let's switch to the other side. Flatten out that back. We'll bend into that left knee. That right arm will reach up. Lower those hands down as we fold. Take a half lift on the inhale. And we'll plant those hands, stepping those feet back to our plank. Lower down. Point those toes, lift the chest, roll the shoulders down and back. So maybe keeping that lowest part of the rib cage on the mat for that cobra. Or if you want, you could press it up into that upward facing dog. Shoulders are pulling down, lengthening through the neck. And then exhaling those hips up and back. Downward facing dog. And now inhale on the toes. Bend those knees. Let's step those feet up top of the mat. Slide those hands up the shins. Find the flat back. And exhale those hands down as we fold. Bend those knees. Rise up to standing. Reach it up top. Interlacing those fingers. Let's find that side bend over to the right. Inhale it back up. Exhale it to the left. Reach it back up. And we'll release those hands as we fold. Inhale that flat back, half lift. Bend into that right knee, left arm reaches up. Lower down, let the head hang for a sec. And then inhale, reflatten out that back, bending into that left knee as that right arm reaches up. Lower the hands down as we fold. Plant those hands, step those feet back to our plank. Okay, go ahead and lower down. Inhale, we'll lift that chest. And exhaling those hips up and back, downward facing dog. Let's move through that one more time. Maybe move a little bit faster. Inhale on the toes. Bend the knees, step those feet top of the mat. Inhale the half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, we'll rise to standing. Interlace the fingers, bend it to the right. Inhale up. Exhale it to the left. Inhale, bring it back up. Exhale, release the hands as we fold. Flat back on the inhale, bend that right knee, twist, left arm up. And exhale it down. Inhale, lengthen, and we'll twist right arm reaches up. And down, flat back on that inhale. And plant the hands, step those feet back. Lower down. Inhale, lift. And exhaling those hips to the sky, downward facing dog. And now let's lower onto those knees. You can bring those toes together to touch. Knees can come a little bit wider as we press those hips back to those heels into that child's pose. Now from here, if you feel like that upper back is a little bit tight, you can lock those fingers out as far as you can. Flip the palms up. Okay, so maybe you start to feel a little bit more stretch here just by flipping those palms up. Okay, or you can bend those elbows, bring the hands and up to the back of the neck or in between those shoulder blades. You can walk those elbows forward a little bit more and find that softening of that chest down towards the mat. And then we'll extend those arms back out. Come up onto those hands and knees. Step those feet back to a plank, and then hips up, downward facing dog. We'll come to those toes, bend those knees, step those feet up top of the mat. Half lift on that inhale. Then exhale, fold. Just let that head hang heavy. Sorry if it just cut out. I don't know what's going on. And then inhale, we're going to rise to standing, reach up tall. Exhale, sink those hips down into that chair. Relaxing those shoulders, sink those hips a little bit lower. Then we'll twist. Let's see, right arm is going to reach back. Left arm reaches forward. So you keep those knees side by side. Okay, when we twist, a lot of times those knees like to shift open. Keep the knees next to each other. Inhale it back up. Exhale to the other side. So left arm reaches back, right arm reaches forward. And inhale those arms back up. Sink those hips a little bit lower into that chair. And straighten those legs as we fold. Lengthen out. Let's bring those fingertips to the mat. Flatten out that back. Let's lift that left leg up. So the more we square those hips off. So think rotating that left outer hip. Internally rotating it. So turning those pinky toes down. That gives us a nice big stretch through this right hamstring. And then we'll take a big step back. Lower those back toes down. Heel, oops, so you can see heel stays lifted. Inhaling those arms up. Shoulders relax down. Bend into that front knee. Now we're going to twist. Left hand reaches forward. Right arm reaches back. And now we'll reverse it. So that left arm's going to reach up. Right hand reaches for that hamstring. Look over that shoulder. Bend into that front knee a little bit more. Inhale, both arms up. With it turn, so our toes are pointing towards the edges of the mat. Hands will come to heart center. Bending into that left knee. Back is flat. Hips are down. Heels are down. Then stay low. Let's bring it over to that right side. Bring it back to center. Toes in, heels out. Flatten out that back and fold. Inhale, re-lengthen out. Walk those hands back to the front. So we're going to come back to that lunge. We're going to twist. Right arm is reaching up. Now lower that hand down. You can bring those hands forward a little bit more. Okay, we're going to lift that left leg up again. So get light on those fingertips. Maybe try and bring those hands to heart center. Find that balance. Now we'll bring that knee to the chest. If you need to grab onto something, feel free to do so. Hug that knee up to that chest. Now we'll cross that ankle over that right side. Sink those hips back a little bit more. Flexing that left foot. Keep that nice flat spine. Rise up. Extend that leg. Lower that foot down. Inhale those arms up. Exhale, sink those hips down into that chair. Give a twist. Right arm reaches back. Left arm reaches forward. Inhale, bring it back up. Exhale, twist to the other side. Inhale, bring it back up. Sink those hips down nice and low. And straighten those legs as we fold. We'll keep those fingertips on the ground as we flatten out that back. Then we're going to lift. Right leg reaches up. So rotating that right outer hip down, pointing those toes down to the mat, pressing through that heel. Take that big step back. Then inhale those arms up overhead into our high crescent lunge. The back leg stays nice and straight. We're bending into that front knee. Now twist. Right hand reaches forward. Left arm reaches back. Flip that palm. Reach that right arm up. So that left hand reaches for that hamstring. Good. Then inhale, both arms up. Spin those toes out. So facing the outer edges of the mat. And then we're just going to lunge over to that right side first. Good. Hips stay low. And we'll come over to that left side next. Then we'll bring it back to center. Find that forward fold. And a little bit more length through that spine. And exhale, fold. And then we'll lengthen, walk those hands back to the front. Plant that right hand as we twist. Left arm is reaching up. Lower that hand down. Walk those hands forward a little bit more. Lift that right leg up. Then maybe we bring those hands to heart center. Big balance pose here. And then start to rise. Hug that knee up to the chest. Cross that ankle over. Sink those hips back. Put those hips down a little bit lower. And inhale, rise up. Extend that leg, lower that foot down. Arms will reach up nice and tall. Exhale, fold. Flat back on that inhale. And exhale, plant those hands. Step those feet back to our plank. Lower down. Inhale, lift. And exhaling those hips up and back, downward facing dog. Okay, we'll move through that series one more time. They will come up onto the toes. Bend those knees, step those feet, top of the mat. Toes together to touch. Find that half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise. And sink those hips down into that chair. Twisting, right arm reaches back, left arm reaches forward. Inhale it back up. Exhale, twist to the other side, right arm forward, left arm back. Inhale those arms up, sink hips down a little lower, and straighten the legs as we fold. Finding that flat back, so you might have to bend the knees a little bit more. You're gonna lift that left leg up, square those hips off. Big step back. We'll come into that high crescent lunge. And into that front knee a little more. And then we'll twist. Left hand reaches forward, right arm reaches back. And reverse it. Left arm reaches up, right hand reaches for that hamstring. Bend a little more into that front knee. Inhale, rise back up. Side lunge into that left knee. Center, over to the right. Back to center, heels in, toes. Switch that, toes in, heels out. And exhale, fold. We'll re-lengthen out. Walking those hands to that right foot into that lunge, twisting. Right arm reaches up. Lower that hand down, walk those hands in front. Lift that leg up. So here's where we go into our balance challenge. If you can't, start to bring, maybe lift one hand up or maybe both hands come to heart center. And bring that knee to the chest. Cross that ankle over. Sink those hips back. Inhale, rise, release, and lower that foot down. Arms will reach up. Exhale, sink those hips down into that chair. Again, we'll twist. Right arm reaches back, left arm forward. Inhale it back up. Exhale to the other side. Inhale, reach it up. Sink the hips a little lower. And straighten those legs as we fold. Flatten out that back. We're going to lift that right leg up. Square those hips. Big step back, inhaling those arms up into that crescent lunge. Then we'll twist. Right hand forward, the left arm reaches back. And reverse it. Right arm reaches up, left arm reaches for that hamstring. And then we'll reach both arms up. Pivot turn towards that long edge of the mat. And we're gonna lunge into that back leg. So you're lunging towards the back of the mat first. We'll come back to center, over to the other side. Back to center, toes in, heels out, and fold. And then lengthen out. We're gonna walk those hands towards that left foot into that lunge. Twisting, left arm reaches up. Lower that hand down, walk those hands in front as we lift that right leg up. Okay, so bring that weight into the foot, light on those fingers, hands come to heart center, And then rise, hug that knee to the chest, cross that ankle over, and sink those hips back. Good, breathe. Find that balance. And rise back up. Extend and lower that foot down, inhaling those arms up. Exhale, fold. Flat back on that inhale. And exhale, fold with the head. Arms hang heavy, maybe even grab opposite elbows. Find a gentle sway from side to side. Now let's plant those hands down. We're going to step those feet back to a plank. We're going to hold this plank for just a few breaths. Press those shoulder blades away from each other. That chest is pulling forward just slightly. Squeeze those legs together. And then pull the toes forward as we pull those arms back. So a lot of core activation. And now side plank. Drop the heels to the right. Left arm reaches up. One more breath. And switch back to front plank, pause. And to the other side. Heels will come to the left, right arm reaches up. And lower that hand down. Back to that front plank, hold, breathe. Go for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly lower it down. Okay, all the way onto the stomach, point those toes. And we're gonna reach those arms back. Bring those legs together. Now start by rolling the shoulders down and back, lifting through the chest, the arms. And so instead of looking forward, we're gonna tuck that chin. So you're kind of looking straight down onto the mat. Lift that chest up a little more. And then exhale, we can soften it down, so lower the chin down, or maybe lower an ear down to the mat. Just that comfortable position. We got 2 more of these. So again, bring those palms to face down. Okay, roll those shoulders down and back. Lift up. This time we're gonna lift those legs with it too. Keep looking down, tuck that chin, lift a little higher. Squeeze those legs together and soften it down. And last one. Roll those shoulders back. Lift the arms, the legs up. Try and lift it a little bit higher. If you inhale, it helps too. Good. As you exhale, you'll rock down a little bit more. Let's give it 2 more breaths. Exhale it out. Last one. Inhale, lift a little higher. And exhale it down. Another breath. Let's slide those hands underneath the shoulders. Let's send those hips back just right into that downward facing dog. Not into a child's pose. Okay, so you can bring those knees maybe a little bit wider. Press those hips back, walk those arms forward. Rest that head down. So it might feel good to bring those knees a little bit closer together, get a little bit more rounding the spine. Because that was a pretty big extension that we just did. Let's find that side stretch. So walk those hands over to that right side. Maybe walk those hands off the mat. Big reach through that left arm. Press that head down. Press the left hip back to that left heel. And we'll walk those hands over to that left side. Big reach to that right arm. And bring it back to center. And pause. And then come up onto hands and knees. And step those feet back to the plank and then right up to that downward facing dog. We're going to step that right foot outside that right hand and see that lizard lunge. So chest pulls forward, nice flat spine. Then into those elbows. We can just rest those forearms down to the mat. We turn those toes out a few degrees. Do what you can even press hand into that knee, get a little more stretch moving through that groin, that hip flexor, and that outer hip. So just an option. And then come back to the hands. Switching sides. So send right leg back. Take a breath in down dog. And switch, stepping that left foot outside that left hand. Into that push up to lower those forearms down. And that chest is going to pull forward. So if you want, just take that left hand, press that inside of that knee out. Maybe just hold that for a breath or two. And then lower onto those forearms. And then press back up onto those hands. Send it back, downward facing dog. And then lower onto those knees. We're going to come into a seat. So I'm going to come towards that long edge of my mat. We're going to come into that wide-legged fold. So you scoot yourself back a little bit so those heels, we can come to the mat, pulling those toes back. Sit up nice and tall and bending those knees a little bit if you need to. And then think we're hinging from the hips, not just rounding through that spine. Okay, so just bring those hands out and start to walk those hands forward. Maybe just a little bit to start pressing those hands. Pull those hands back. It's going to pull your chest forward a little bit more. And holding that position wherever you're kind of stuck at. Keep breathing. And then maybe you can bring that chest forward a little bit more. Come down a little bit further. And come up onto those hands and bring those legs together. Let's roll it onto our backs. We'll go right into that hip bridge. So knees are bent. Plant those feet down. Scoop that tailbone up first. Keep that low back, belly pulling down as that tailbone is scooping up. A little stretch to the quads, hip flexors. You should feel this a lot in those glutes and those hamstrings. And slowly roll it on down. Again, we'll cross that right ankle over that left thigh. Hug that knee in. So maybe it's a little bit more loosened up. You can grab onto that shin this time around. So you're hugging that knee in a little bit closer. We'll lower that foot down. Tee out those arms. Drop the knees. You can over to that right side as that left arm reaches out. And then bring that knee back up. Switching sides. Cross that left ankle over. Hug that knee in. Tailbone still stays down, chest is lifted. Left foot is flexed. Lower that foot down. Ankle stays crossed over as we reach that right arm out. And drop the knees over to that left side. And then bring those knees back to center. Uncross it. Let's hug both knees into the chest. To gently rock from side to side. And then we'll round that spine, bringing that forehead to the knees. Then we'll extend those legs out. Reach those arms overhead. That full body stretch from the fingertips all the way down through those toes. And exhaling those arms down by the sides. Palms will face up. Shoulder blades will walk together. Maybe bring those legs out a little bit wider. Breath a little softer, a little more natural. So let yourself completely relax these next few minutes. Begin to deepen your breath. Just gently begin to wiggle those fingers and toes. Reach those arms overhead, that full body stretch. Fingertips all the way down to those toes. And draw those knees into the chest. Gently rolling over to your right side, letting that arm support your head. That other arm just falls in front, completely resting on your side. And then press yourself up into a comfortable seat, sitting nice and tall, closing down those eyes. And if you're just resting on your knees, just pausing it here for a few breaths. And taking that big breath in through the nose. And exhale, open the mouth, side out. Good, and blinking those eyes open. Thank you guys so much. Have a great evening. We have power yoga tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Just hope to see you all there. Otherwise, have a good night.